Сайн байцгаана уу хүнд үзэгчдээ. Өнөөдөр ороо манай зочноор Британика толь лавлах бичгийн Ерөнхий редактор Дэйл Хойберг оролцож байна.
Дэйл Хойберг. Инсайклопийдиэ Британика Инк компанийн дэд ерөнхийлөгч, ерөнхий редактор Дэйл Хойберг. Hoiberg 1978 онд Британика нэвтрүүлгийн толны редакторын албанд орсон. Hoiberg 1997 онд Британика нэвтрүүлгийн толны ерөнхий редакторын албанд шаал томилогдсон бол 2000 оноос дэд ерөнхийлөгчийн албанд шаалыг давхар хашиж байна. Тэрээр Умар Дакота мужийн Дэвис Лейк хотод төрсөн. Өмнөд Дакота мужийн Аугустана коллежийг харьцуулсан утга зохиол философи мэргэжлээр төгсөж, Чикагогийн их сургуулийн хятадын утга зохиол сэдвээр мастер докторийн зэрэг хамгаалсан.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for coming to the program.
You're welcome. I'm privileged to be here.
Please tell us about your mission to Mongolia.
I came here to be part of the launch of the Mongolian Britannica Concise Encyclopedia, which is happening today. And this is an encyclopedia translated in part from the English original. It's an encyclopedia of about 25,000 entries. But here in Mongolia, another 3,000 plus entries have been added on Mongolia-related subjects.
So that 3,000 will be separate, Mongolia Britannica, right?
Actually, they'll be all together as one Britannica Concise Encyclopedia. And it's a great work and has taken over 3 years to complete, working between Chicago and UB.
That will be in Mongolia.
In Mongolia, yes.
So you have been working as a chief editor, how many years?
I've been the chief editor at Encyclopedia Britannica for about 11 years. I worked before that in the international division, supervising our international product development, mostly non-English products. And before that, I was in the editorial department for 5 or 6 years. So it's a total of 33 years.
Wow. So Britannica is not only in English, in how many languages?
The full Britannica database is in 9 languages, but we have other products, but especially Concise. It's the product that we like translating the most because it speaks directly to its users and it's not quite the same kind of project that the other one is. We have that in almost 20 languages, but many of those were done through our various offices around the world, our Britannica offices.
Okay. Britannica, tell us about Britannica, the history, how come it became a Britannica as it is today?
Britannica was founded in 1768 in Edinburgh, Scotland. It was there a number of years, quite a number of years, and then moved to London. And in the 1930s, it moved to Chicago because it was purchased by Sears Roebuck and Company, a large mail order concern in the United States. And they wanted its headquarters then moved to Chicago. So we've been there ever since.
So it's about almost 400 years, or 300?
The history of Britannica is around, it's almost 250.
250 years?
Yes.
And at that time, probably the printing capacity was not that much as today. So how you have been dealing with that capacity, and what was the secret of becoming so famous edition?
I think, yes, we started off rather small. Our first edition in 1768 was 3 volumes. And then it increased gradually in size to where it is today in print, 32 volumes. I think the reason Britannica ultimately became so famous, actually there are several reasons, but the main one is that very early on, the editors of Britannica selected experts, outside experts, to write the articles. And it was from their expertise that the authority of Britannica actually came. The other part of it was that as time went on, the in-house editorial process became more and more refined to the point where it is today that it has an ultimate purpose of trying to produce the most accurate and unbiased articles possible.
Yeah, it is a quality of those who is contributing as editor and concise, you said, writing, and you were the index editor. What does that mean?
I started off, I had been in graduate school and finished my graduate courses and thought before I started writing my dissertation I would go to get a job for a year.
Okay.
And I came to Britannica, and there was one position open, which was index editor. And that job involved reading articles and then indexing them. That is, associating things in the article with headwords in the index. And at first, I thought it was the last thing I really wanted to be doing. On the other hand, as I look back on it now, and even after I was there a while, I realized it was an extremely useful thing to learn, because unlike other people who haven't had that experience, you get to see the database across it, and you are working to relate one thing to another, to say that something belongs with something else. And so you get an overview of the database that others don't necessarily have. So I was very glad to start like that.
So every article will go to different, depending on which words you take as index, goes to different alphabetic order, no?
Yes, exactly. So
like a reference to, because the same article cannot be printed twice. So the topics then make a reference, right? See this on that.
Yeah, two things. One is to actually place some description of what's being discussed in this article under a term, a larger term that's related to it. And then there's also the process of inserting see alsos or see under, or today we put links in instead of that.
So it's like almost accounting work.
That part is almost like accounting work, but it's very interesting. Just as accountants are very interested often in what they're doing, so are indexers.
Yes. So Britannica today, how many people who owns? Is it a public company, well listed?
It is a privately held company. There are, in the editorial department, which is of course my concern, there are about 100 people, and most of them are editors of different types. So in addition to those editors in Chicago, we have a few editors elsewhere around the world. We have some editors, probably 6 or 7 in Paris. We have editors in New Delhi, Tokyo, Seoul, Korea, and Taipei.
How about Mongolia?
We have the partnership here with Nevco, but someday we may have our own editors here, but right now the partnership is working.
How often it will be Mongolia Britannica in Mongolian language? How often it will be updated?
That is, we are to talk about that, but it will be updated as often, because right now it exists as a print product first. It was thought best to do that for lots of reasons, but certainly it will be online at some point. So print, of course, is harder to update and keep updated than online, but we'll be working out a process for that.
The Britannica Mongolia and your cooperation with Nevco, who will own the Mongolian Britannica?
Well, Britannica owns the copyright to the content. However, the product itself, of course, is owned by Nevco. But the copyright to the content is Britannica's.
So I understand Britannica played an important role in knowledge dissemination all around the world, in particular, first of all, for those who speak English, right? And probably this life was, since you are the first comer, your life was easier and better and good from year to year until you get internet. How much internet had changed your life?
Oh, the internet has changed our life in so many ways. I can't say completely, because there are some things that are still very much the same. I mean, we still have the same standards of quality, and we still use outside experts, and we still have expert editors. But otherwise, the change has been dramatic, both internally and externally. For example, internally, we now have a completely digital electronic editorial process. We still can see paper around, but basically we are working on everything online, passing things from one step to another online, and so forth. Also, of course, as a print publisher for all those years, we had all of our media assets, that is images, maps, tables, in film form, and it has been a huge process to get all of that digitized and usable.
Well, compare yourself, please, to the closest or competitor, whoever. What would be the next company you will compare yourself?
I guess it depends on, I would say that probably our biggest competitor left. We used to have more, but the biggest competitor left is probably World Book Encyclopedia, which is also in the United States, also in Chicago, and they aim for high school audiences. That still, in many ways, is a strong competitor of ours.
Oh.
The only
Of the same size?
It's smaller. It's a smaller database. And as I said, directed at a younger audience.
Okay.
We have a product that competes with them to Compton's by Britannica, but that probably is traditionally one of our strongest competitors, or the most strong competitor. Online, of course, it's somewhat different. We compete with a variety of things online, and Google, in a sense, is a competitor, but not really. But people use it in the way that they might an encyclopedia, and there are problems with that, but it's easy to do. Wikipedia, you can consider a kind of competitor, although because they do a lot of the same things as we do, but in different ways. We don't look at them completely as a competitor. We look at them kind of as their own thing. We, of course, are devoted to what we do and the way we do it, as opposed to the process they use. But
how much it would cost, say, today I go to bookstore, Barnes & Nobles in the US, or Borders, how much will cost whole complete Britannica there?
The 32-volume print set would cost around $1,200 in a bookstore, something like that.
Okay, before tax.
Yes.
$1,200, $1,200.
And that price varies somewhat around the world. It just depends on.
Tell me now, we talk about electronic books, and then you have this printed books. Since then, the internet, then electronic books, e-books, do you experience dramatic change in your sales? Of
course, the sales have also changed dramatically. You're right. In the past, in the mid-90s even, most of our sales were print sets. Today, most of our sales are online. We sell CDs and DVDs as well, but most of the sales are online today. So when you talk online, can we visit Britannica and to see the content what we want, like a Google? You can go to Britannica.com, and some of the content is accessible immediately. To get the full database, there's a charge, and we have a yearly cost for that. But generally speaking, you can get certain highlighted articles. Right now, we actually have about 18,000 articles free online. Out of how many thousand? Out of 85,000. 85,000. So some we can free download and read, the other with additional charge. What will be the subscription per year? That also varies around the world. Generally speaking, I would say in the U.S. it's something around $60. But we look at that constantly, and we're working on mobile phones, a complete app for mobile phones right now, and the pricing will change. So it just kind of depends on where you are and what you're using. Interesting. Now let's tell us please about encyclopedia. Why is it encyclopedia? What is an encyclopedia? An encyclopedia is a reference work that has had various purposes, and there have been various types in the past. But the main purpose of an encyclopedia is to gather knowledge and information that users need, whether that is in a general encyclopedia that covers a wide array of topics, or a topical one which may cover one topic or a set of related topics or a whole subject area. But what one does when one compiles an encyclopedia is to keep in mind what a user needs to know, both in terms of the total number of entries put in there, what those entries are, and then what goes into each particular entry. This means that today we look at an encyclopedia as having several different uses. I mean, a user can look up something rather quickly there. I mean, if you're in a debate or you're at home and a question occurs to you, you can go to the encyclopedia and look it up. But also, it has to satisfy the needs of people actually doing some research, students who are looking for more in-depth information about certain things that they know too little about. And then third, there are people who use an encyclopedia to really enhance their education by reading everything in a subject area or going through the outline of knowledge or something like that.
There's assumption today that IT revolution had been happening. We are experiencing this third largest revolution in human history now ourselves, and we're benefiting in certain degrees. And some scientists say that out of IT, technology revolution had happened. I mean, generally they have done this substances, what we do expect from revolution. And some say now, we do talk about the information now. We have a hell of information, a lot of information, but little knowledge, they say. What would be your take on that?
I would say that encyclopedias are an answer. We consider them the main answer to this problem, because as the modern world develops and more information is available, there is more to understand and more to sift through. And as we know from almost any Google search, I mean, there can be thousands and thousands of hits.
Millions, yes.
Yeah, and millions, yes, that you get. And to search through all of this or make sense of it is extremely problematic.
Yeah, or
what an
trouble.
encyclopedia does is try to make sense of that for you and give you some place to work from. And I think the reason that encyclopedias still are very valid, I mean, some have said that encyclopedias were for the past and we don't need them anymore, but yet there's a multiplicity of new encyclopedias appearing on the internet on all kinds of topics in probably most languages. And so this in itself testifies to the fact that still, as knowledge and information explodes, we need some way to grab a hold of it, and people understand that.
Well, that's a great concept. Out of along with zillions of information, you bring this precise, concise jewel of that knowledge.
Yes, and then people can work from there to explore.
What is your motto of a company as a Britannica? How do you motivate yourself?
I motivate myself. I like to think that Encyclopedia Britannica is doing, as it has in the past, raising the standards always. And in the internet age, it's what we want to do. We want to be there to be a high standard, show others what a high standard is, and then increase everybody's ability to get good, accurate information easily. I have looked at Britannica myself as being in the pursuit of excellence. And we know that that pursuit is never easy. It's never even.
Ends.
But it never ends. And there are ups and downs. But Britannica is involved in the pursuit of excellence. And I believe that that's what attracts people to it who work there, and it keeps them there.
I was told somehow, in pursuit of excellence, it's important. You may never reach there, get there, but on the way you may reach the perfection.
That's right.
What was the best entry or article that you have been so proud of working for Encyclopedia like Britannica?
A good question. There are actually many such entries. We have right now a project going on to increase the number of entries on different countries, and of course the Mongolia Concise is going to help us with Mongolia. But I think that a number of biographies of famous writers from the United States and famous film directors, which we've been working on recently, really fit that bill. I read some of them and think these are excellent. And
you mean about the script of the movie after already the movie is screened, or the author's work before the movie?
I think both, actually, and how the person's background and experience went into making the movie what it is in the case of film directors. Alfred Hitchcock, for example, we have had we've for long years had an article on Alfred Hitchcock, but our new article on him is many times longer and discusses each of his films in more detail, and you really get a sense of who this person was and what motivated him. We also, on the writer side, we have a new entry. There are many new entries there, but one is a replacement entry on Virginia Woolf. And I think it is one of the best entries that I've read on a writer.
Why?
You get a real sense of who this person was and also what her work was all about. So I think that reading Encyclopedia Britannica can do that to you. And I think one of the advantages that we have is that we have many signed articles by experts. We actually do some entries in-house, but signed articles by experts, which means that we are not only a secondary source, we're a so-called primary source, where these people's writings only appear. And so you go to Britannica and find an original piece of writing by someone who knows.
But not all piece, but the
Yes.
resume or sort of short.
Yes,
Work.
yes. There are more and more of them, but not all.
Okay, when you're writing the style, the content, when you get excited as an author, then you get excited the audience. Is it
Yes,
true?
exactly. Very true. You can tell when you read an article how excited the author was. Yes.
What was the particular entrance you can share with us on that matter?
That was, I'm thinking right now, the Virginia Woolf article just keeps coming to mind because I could tell the author was not only understanding her very well and the work that she did, but looked at her life in ways that I felt were extremely meaningful. In ways
Have you met?
No, I haven't met him, but I would like to. I would like to. Also, well, there are just many other examples, and we could talk for some time about them, but that is one of the exciting things about the job I have.
Have you had that problem when, say, somebody would come say, no, it is not the way, that's what I did not mean?
Oh, yes, yes.
Well, you know,
That's right.
In expressing somebody's thoughts, it's almost the same as the original was.
Yes, right. That happens as well, which is why so much work has to go into these entries. And our editors, of course, will, out of necessity, change certain things in an article that aren't very clear, or sometimes even from the most respected scholars, there will be something that isn't seeming quite right. So those things get changed and corrected and then sent back to the author, and a dialogue will start.
So it's, if it goes after publishing, it obviously will take quite some time and resources, no?
Yes, that's true. But now with our online publishing, we can make changes to articles or add articles within instantly. Usually our process, the way we do it, takes around 20 minutes, but it could be instant.
See, now we are living, you, me, it doesn't matter, we're in Chicago or in Ulaanbaatar, we live in the world where we are having a flood of information.
Yes.
So how we have to orient on particular topics. I mean, really zillions of entries in, if you go through Google.
Yes.
So what is your take on that? How do you select a particular new entry you think you should do into Britannica?
Well, fortunately there we use our board of editors who are very prominent scholars from around the world.
How many of them, by the way?
Well, our board of editors right now has 8 people. It's a very select group.
Wow, okay.
But besides that, we have advisors for every subject area. And then, as I said, we have expert editors. So all of those people together and myself suggest and recommend things, and then we look at those and weigh one against the other and so forth.
Who were the famous, I mean, in old time, certainly, I mean, 200 years ago, Britannica Academy, Royal Academy on different sciences in the UK, they were the famous scientists who were on the board of Britannica, if you can recall any.
From the distant past?
Yes.
Well, actually, the kind of model that we have right now only goes back to the 1940s. That's when the board of editors, as we know it now, actually started. There were always groups of people that advise. But the board of editors, as we know it now, really started in the 1940s. And, you know, of course, people are replaced as they are no longer active in their field or whatever. But more recently, we've had a number of Nobel Prize winners. I mean, certainly Wole Soyinka was on the board. Zaha Hadid, the Iranian-born architect who won the Pulitzer Architecture Prize a few years ago. People on that level. We have Vartan Gregorian, who's the head of the Carnegie Institute, but he had been head of Brown University and also the New York Public Library. Philosophers, other scientists, historians.
Out of many sciences you are certainly touching upon in your Britannica, what are those particular sciences? Is it linguistic, or it is literature, or is it English, where you bring, you think, a particular contribution to development of that science?
A good question. I would say that these days our coverage of the basic physical and life sciences is very strong. We have an editor with a PhD over each section, and I think that our science articles are as clear and as helpful as they've ever been. We had, if you look at previous editions of Britannica, previous articles in the Sciences in Britannica, you'll find different things. But often they were extremely complex because sometimes the editor didn't himself or herself understand exactly what the scientist was saying, so just kind of let it be. We don't have that now, so the articles tend to be more helpful. Literature and the humanities have always been strong points of Britannica. But we also, unlike what many people would think, have a very strong coverage of sports. So you can go there to find all kinds of scores and information about players that you might not have thought you'd find there.
Wow. Well, Encyclopeydia Britanica, now it's 33 books, right?
32.
Volumes. 32
in
volumes.
print.
In terms of, we live in digital world, in terms of the size of information, how many gigabyte would be 32 volumes of Britannica? If you put on the, say, on large CD, how much memory would it require?
That's a good question, and I don't even know. I
thought
know.
just because maybe you need a special computer, no?
We do have large servers, that's for sure. But I'm not even sure how many gigabytes the whole thing takes, but a lot. And then, of course, we have another site that has all, it's a school site that has, in addition to Britannica, Compton's Encyclopedia and then our elementary encyclopedia. So there you have 3 databases in one, which is, of course, all the larger.
You know, I studied in the Soviet Union. Britannica was that time 80s. In 80s, something unvaluable. If somebody has Britannica, there it is something. So and I would think as a value, probably, which is associated with, say, somebody's real value or intelligentsia value, etc. So it comes through different stages in history. If there were a certain time where it was a very good gift to somebody, or can you share some story about that, whether it is in England or later on in America?
Where it was a good gift?
Yes, gift or something of that much value that you will you give and somebody really value it.
Yes, you know, it's often said that Britannica traditionally, and even up to recent times, and it could be today too, to the extent that individual homes buy the print set. Now most homes are using the internet, but it could be said that Britannica was always an aspirational product. That is, people gave it or bought it because of aspirations they had, either for somebody else or for themselves. And I was reflecting on a story just recently about the American actress Ellen Burstyn, who played the mother role. If you remember the movie The Exorcist, she was not as fortunate as a child as many other people, and she had to cut off her education earlier. But instead, her father got her a set of Britannica, and to this day, she's actually in touch with Britannica. She's going to be writing for us, but to this day, she credits Britannica with the education that she didn't have. She started going through it.
Is it a movie or is it a real story?
This is a real story.
Oh, okay. Well, there are so, because knowledge makes us stronger.
Yes.
And more hopeful.
Yes.
More successful.
Right.
And I think Britannica and your partners here, Britannica Mongolia, gives a lot of knowledge, power to Mongolians, even in Mongolian language. It's a good job, and I think that will be certainly a great value in this society, which probably will be appreciated later on.
Yes, and we too are extremely happy about this event. It's very meaningful to us. Mongolia is an exciting, dynamic, and very unique place in many ways. And looking at the last 20 years and how it's so rapidly developing in this open environment, and how many changes there are already and how many more there will be, it's fascinating. And we're very happy to be here and be part of it.
Mr. Hoiberg, thank you very much for contributing to better Mongolia.
It's our betterment too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. За их баярлалаа хүндэтгэгчдээ. Сайн байцгаана хүнд үзэгчдээ. Өнөөдөр орой манай нэвтрүүлгээр Марко Дракос оролцож байна.
Хатагтай Марко Дракос технологийн компаниудад бизнесийн хөгжил, стратеги төлөвлөлт, маркетингийн чиглэлээр зөвлөгөө өгдөг. Тэрээр Instant Incor компанийг үүсгэн байгуулагч бөгөөд хөгжлийн бэрхшээлтэй хүүхэд залуучуудын боловсрол, ажил эрхлэлтийг дэмжих зорилгоор Upbridge вебсайтыг бүтээсэн. Хатагтай Дракос хийлж мэргэжлэр суралцсан бөгөөд Ази, Европ, Өмнөд Америк, Америкийн нэгдсэн улсад аялан тоглолтоо хийж өжээ. Тэрээр Колумбийн их сургуулийг хүний эрх олон улсын харилцааны мастер зэрэгтэй төгссөн. Түүний өгүүлэлүүд Америкийн нэр хүндтэй сэтгүүлүүдэд хэвлэгдэж байжээ.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Please tell us what brought you to Mongolia.
Well, first of all, it's an incredible honor for me to have the opportunity to be here. I am part of the Forum of Young Global Leaders of the World Economic Forum, and we were extended the opportunity to visit Mongolia and meet with some of your wonderful leaders and experience some of the culture prior to going to Dalian for the annual meeting of new champions for the World Economic Forum beginning this Sunday. So we're having a few days here to experience
Before going
Mongolia.
that, World Economic Forum, and they're part of Young Global Leaders, and how many Young Global Leaders are there?
Well, that's a great question. There's about 100 nominated each year, who are selected each year. The Forum of Young Global Leaders is a group of extraordinary achievers who are nominated before they turn 40 years old across a variety of areas, from academia to science to business to political leaders to media experts. And thousands of people are nominated each year. And they select 100 to 200 people per year from 7 geographic regions, and who are committed to improving the state of the world, and locally, nationally, globally. Yes. And you receive a 5-year appointment or commitment, if you will. So it's kind of an annually rotating community. There's, I believe, about 600 active members.
When you say commitment, what are you supposed to do?
That's a great question. It's a rather humbling and large statement to say that you're supposed to figure out some way to improve the state of the world. Obviously, I think that one of the wonderful things that is been very personally rewarding for me about the Young Global Leader community is that it's an opportunity to meet people from so many different areas. The opportunity for me to have friends in Mongolia or in Ethiopia or anywhere around the world, and the opportunity to have an exchange of ideas. And we all have different expertise to bring to the table, and so you can identify something that you're passionate about, and you have the resources and the support and the opportunity to meet incredible leaders around the world in all sectors, and you have the opportunity to create something, build something sustainable with people that you connect with and enjoy working with, and utilize that extraordinary opportunity that we all have as young global leaders.
Margot, you work for investment firm, right? Who is investing into venture technology companies?
Yes.
Please tell us about your group.
Yes, the Switchcase Group, we are investing in and helping build very hands-on sort of niche technology platforms that help enable communities to flourish and create efficiencies with technology. So we get in very hands-on. It's a small team of engineers, very legendary business tech entrepreneurs, and I often spend most of my time working on sort of business development and marketing and strategy for one or two companies at a time in our portfolio. And sometimes I've had the good fortune of being able to co-found some of the companies that are now in our portfolio, and it's a rewarding time, I think, for in the States right now. It's a lot of and globally, obviously, it's an extraordinary time for small teams to build very powerful platforms.
Please share with us some cases where you were able to change the way the community works. Or
that's a wonderful. Well, one little small anecdote that was very fun. The last year and a half, I worked very closely with the YouTube Symphony Orchestra project and the Google Creative Labs, and my company powered the mobile infrastructure for enabling a live event that took place in Sydney at the Sydney Opera House that brought together 101 musicians who competed by submitting their own performances to YouTube. And there was a voting process, and 101 musicians were chosen. They were flown down to Sydney from 33 countries, and they performed at the Sydney Opera House, which was also broadcast on the internet and on mobile devices on all platforms, and was projected on the sails of the Sydney Opera House outside what was happening inside. And my company, Instant Encore, that I had co-founded, was responsible for looking at sort of how do you leverage mobile technology to engage a community, merge that with culture, and form new communities and new innovation, and while respecting sort of some of the great traditions of the past, the great cultural traditions of the past. And the results were just unbelievable. It ended up being the largest streaming event in the history of the web and mobile technology, and there were 33 million people who watched on multiple websites. There were 2.8 million people who watched on mobile phones for an average of 25 minutes, which was just staggering to all of us.
Was it all Google support or not necessarily? Every phone?
Oh, no, yes, it was across all. My company powered it on iPhone, on iPad, on iOS devices, on Android devices, and mobile websites across from any smartphone, any browser.
This was probably the best technology multiplied media event ever, right?
It was an extraordinary event. It was an extraordinary event.
Program there was on CNN.
Oh, fabulous. You know, one of the funny things, just as a little aside, that was kind of comical, when we would send out push notifications to people on their devices to let them know that the live event was about to start. And we had over 141,000 people had already downloaded the YouTube app that we had built and was powering. And we did a little test just to see nobody had ever sent out that many push notifications to say a live event is to start. And in our test, it took 19 minutes to send the push. So we, needless to say, the engineers developed a system.
So you got many musicians from all over the world sending their program
to
you
YouTube.
At the end select, and then 101 musicians come together to Sydney and playing. Wow,
yes, and then that was streamed across all technology platforms.
And it is one of this Google Creative Labs work, right?
Yes, it was part of that.
Tell us about this Google Creative Labs.
I can't. I'm not a Google employee, so I don't. But it was an amazing group of people. It was an incredible.
I'm talking about the culture, which is now creating new culture of communication in the world.
It is. I mean, I think that's the amazing thing, you know, about technology as a whole. I mean, you see so much disruptive change, and certainly in media, a lot of the, you know, previously established models for revenue and for ways of communicating have completely exploded. And while that is creating a great deal of loss and problems, it's also creating these amazing new opportunities, the democratization of access to content, to education, to media, to humanizing cultures, to you know. So I think it's a rapidly shifting world, and there's a great deal of responsibility that comes with that, and. You have to be sensitive, obviously, to sort of the loss that some are feeling from the changes that occur. But I am incredibly ecstatic and passionately excited about the new opportunities.
A few years ago, Peter Drucker, when he was alive, said, remember, about IT, and a revolution with I is done. T is done. Now revolution with I. That's the content. I think today we are technically possible.
Yes.
Now content was to share, to make us better, to communicate us better, to world more peaceful, right?
Yes, absolutely.
That's, I think, this generation keep moving the world into better part, no?
Well, I couldn't agree more. I think we all have a responsibility to do so, and something that I spend a great deal of time, and my friends, my fellow colleagues in the young global leader community, I think we all feel very passionate and immense responsibility towards. Just to touch on that very end, comment, a couple of young global leaders and myself this year, kind of an interesting thing, because I had, just to back up for a moment, because I've been spending so much time on innovative technology in the mobile space for smartphones and tablets. I was curious what was happening for, you know, an enormous amount of the population that is still, you know, using sort of SMS-based phones. And I teamed up with a YGL, Dr. Umar Saif, at the Lahore University of Management Sciences, and I asked if some of his students would want to build some math games for SMS-based phones. And they built these beautiful games, some group of Pakistani students, and I found that it was actually very challenging. You don't have the Android store or the Apple store to necessarily submit an app and have it go everywhere. So what we've ended up doing, and we're launching this coming week in Dalian and then at the Clinton Global Initiative the week following, is we've launched an initiative called the App Bridge, which is going to be an online platform that will really enable the creation, the submission, and the distribution of mobile apps to empower, you know, and to facilitate education and opportunity to disadvantaged youth everywhere through mobile phones.
In a remote area, rural areas.
Exactly. I mean, there's about 3.8 billion people in the emerging markets who have cell phones, and most people in rural communities, each family has at least one cell phone.
So you have founded this App Bridge.
Yes, I did.
Good job.
Well, we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do. We're just getting started.
You're distributing content, educational, economic, job opportunities, etc., to young people. Otherwise, they could not accept. On all their mobile different platforms, right?
Yes, exactly. We're working on developing a universal language code to enable developers to submit an app, and then we're partnering with various telecom companies to have that app then be submitted across all types of platforms.
Will it be any cheaper for them to have otherwise?
That's this is exactly, it's pivotal, it's absolutely crucial, and we're working very closely with two telecom companies in particular at the moment to finalize that.
What would be a principal difference of format of this information package?
I mean, how will it be? Well, ideally, we will have, so for example, we're going to, I'll just give two case studies examples. We're launching a program in India that is with the Mealy Carnegie Mellon University Labs, and it's an entire 5th grade of English language training for people who want to learn English as a second language through their cell phones. And so it's 12 games that will be either preloaded on their phones when they get a new phone, or will be free for them to download and onto their phone, and will they'll have an opportunity to work with, and their teachers will be able to.
So will it be interactive in a way?
Yes. Oh, it's absolutely interactive.
So that makes the difference, along with other programs.
Absolutely. It's auditory and visual learning, and in 2 languages at the moment. It'll be expanding. So that's one example. And yes, it goes through lessons, and then you play games, and if you make mistakes, then it tells you what to work on, and then it goes back and retests it. It's very comprehensive. It's amazing lab. And then the second program that we're very, very excited about is working with this amazing organization called Mobile Movement, which will be founding and building the mobile platforms and apps, a series of apps that is for what they're calling a Khadija initiative, which is incredible. It's to start and grow 10,000 women, small businesses run by women in Yemen, and it will be expanding throughout the Middle East and North Africa. And they're using mobile technology, which AppBridge will be creating and distributing in tandem with QTEL, as a tool for helping the women understand, learn certain business skills, or how to access new markets or communicate.
And that will be in their language, or
yes, all in their language. It's all very. So this is something that will be very. There's a variety. We're creating an ecosystem, if you will, so of content coming in from people on the ground, app developers who will then work with that content and develop that, and then telco corporations that will be distributing it at affordable, or it has to be free.
In such a format that is easier to download and to read, to interact.
Yes,
fantastic.
Exactly. So
and
that's exciting.
Will it be competing with Android type of this? No.
No, well, we hope that what I think is important is to build tools that will scale as smartphone penetration and tablet penetration starts to reach many broader audiences. So, no, I mean, we very much want to have everything compatible for Android devices and everything, and just, but right now you still also have a number of people who are using SMS-based phones.
Margot, you have been a musician.
Yes.
How you became a IT lady? What brought you? It is such a change. Please tell me.
It's quite a change. I don't have a very. It's a long and winding story, which I won't bore you with. But I was very fortunate to go to music conservatory very, very young at the Curtis Institute of Music, and I was equally fortunate to have made a living as a cellist, touring around the world and orchestra and chamber music, and had a wonderful faculty position. And
where faculty position?
I was at the Manhattan School of Music and the Aspen Music Festival, artist in residence, and things, which was a real pleasure.
And you have been traveling all around the world playing cello.
Yes, I traveled very, very extensively, and was fortunate to be able to support myself at a very young age, which was important to me. And but what I found was that as you have the opportunity to travel the world, and I was concerned about, I felt that classical music, which was what I did, I sometimes felt very disconnected from my audience, I like to dream big and problem solve and things, and I found that actually as a musician, you're very well prepared actually for problem solving and for thinking about how do you communicate with an audience, or what are the needs of that audience, and how can you support other voices to allow them to rise and flourish. As a cellist, that's a lot of what you do. You're supporting.
You said a very interesting thing. As a musician, you feel very close and feeling comfortable with converting this message to people. when does this break happen to you? Tell me.
When
how it come?
You mean with music or with?
No, with the way you were expressing
technology.
yourself with music, cello, professionally, and then suddenly you decided, and then you said that you want to communicate. You feel like you will feel better communicating in different ways.
In different ways.
What brought you to this conclusion, and when and how?
Well, a couple of very pivotal things happened when I had the opportunity to be a member of the American String Quartet as a cellist. Their wonderful group. I missed the fact that I had never studied anything outside of music and conservatory. I went to conservatory very young, and so I decided to apply to Columbia University and to study human rights and international affairs.
And you did.
I did, and it was not convenient. I had not studied or written a paper since I was about 15 years old prior, so it was kind of a steep learning. Yes, all music. So, and I found that was just an incredible eye-opening experience to study, international relations and conflict resolution. And I had the amazing fortune of meeting a very legendary tech entrepreneur, Bill Stensrud, through actually cello. And he is a very large supporter of the arts, and he gave me an extraordinary opportunity to build a company with him and two wonderful young engineers. And I was sort of at a crossroads where I felt like I wanted to take some of my experiences as a cellist and as a musician and expand them into other areas. And I felt like it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And so I decided to go for it.
And what you have been doing exactly with him, the firm?
I'm sorry?
The firm, or what you exactly are busy?
Well, so that this has now evolved. So that was that was one company, and then that was Instant Encore actually that we co-founded, and then so now it's been almost 4 years since I transitioned from making my living as a cellist to joining to building my first or co-founding a tech company with these wonderful people.
You have incredibly two strongest tools of communication, music and IT, and the same person in the same business. How do you feel about that?
Well, I'm not sure about all that, but it is. I think it's interesting that I think music or studying any kind of performing arts or discipline or sport and things, prepares you beautifully for a host of things in life. And so it feels to me very like a natural evolution that has occurred.
You said that some interesting thing. Music, sport, the business all together requires very strong discipline.
Yes, absolutely.
And tell us about the discipline, being responsible for yourself first of all, etc.
Oh, that's very important.
What you would tell the younger people who thinks about that, feeling not very self-confident, what you would tell?
Oh, that's so wonderful. Well, I think I struggle with those questions myself, and as one continues to go through life, you're always questioning those things. But I think that we all have such. Well, I feel very fortunate that I've had such incredible mentors and teachers and dear people close to me throughout my life who supported me at times when I did not necessarily believe in myself. Mm-hmm. And as a result, I've been incredibly fortunate to have experiences, to be sitting here and speaking with you, and to be traveling around the world, meeting wonderful people, and having an opportunity to build things that can hopefully benefit others in some small way. And I think that it's a very comforting thought to know that there are people all over the world trying to do the best they can and make some small mark or a large mark. None of us know at the time.
Where does the discipline start then?
Well, I think the discipline comes from first of all, that's a good question. I think it's a big, commitment is an enormous part of it. I think that I feel responsible to do my best as much as I possibly can.
Who made you responsible? Your family, your parents?
I didn't have the most, I had a colorful upbringing. So I think that I found very early on that I needed to rely on myself, and that you can do anything if you believe and you work hard enough at it. And I've never been the most talented person or smartest person in any area at all. No. I think it's important to recognize if you work hard, if you stay focused, if you just, as life goes on, more people sometimes get tired or things happen and life and you can't control and all those things. But if you can stay focused and stay committed, I do believe that you can achieve whatever your dreams are. And
where you were born?
I was born in Columbus, Ohio.
Ohio.
Yes.
And went to the east or west coast.
No, I went to school in Philadelphia and Cleveland. And I was very fortunate to have amazing education as a.
Your parents were supporting your musical education in particular, or?
It was a complicated upbringing.
Okay.
Complicated. I left home. I left home by 15. And
you were on your own on 15.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And so I think something that's important that I think about a lot now is sort of the difference between goals and dreams, and sometimes you can be very driven about your goals, but finding a way to merge those so that the things that are very personally rewarding to you.
What a major difference between goal and dream.
What is the difference?
Yes, a major difference between goal and dream.
Well, I think for me personally, as a cellist, I can use this analogy. As a cellist, I wanted to try to win jobs or win competitions or win something. And what I found was that once I was in some of the jobs, I didn't find them actually as personally rewarding as I had hoped. And so I think that, and now I actually, I love very, very much what I do now for my job. And it's much more of a dream.
So have you got your dream done?
No. I don't know. I hope we're always dreaming.
What is the must dream you would like to do?
I think to create something. Well, first of all, I think to treat people, all the people that you meet on your daily life, with respect and dignity, and to if you're in a position where you're fortunate enough to manage or work in tandem with others, that you cultivate an environment where you're respecting and allowing your others to flourish and bring out their best. But I think then a part in the broader sense is to hopefully build on the technology standpoint and the education standpoint to build things that allow others to realize their full potential, because I feel that I've been very fortunate that others helped me along the way to realize or have opportunities. And so I hope that I in some small way am able to create and give that same opportunity to others as people did for me.
Finally, I want to ask a question as a musician, as a person who lived through this music. What is the must music it makes you strong, or it makes you a hard time keep moving?
What music, actual music, do I find most moving and things? Well, I have an eclectic taste, I will tell you.
Okay.
First of all, I love classical music, which I will touch on in a moment. But when I'm working and I like to run, and I am a hip hop rap music junkie.
Hip hop rap music junkie.
I love Tupac and Eminem and a host of others. But in the classical music area, I mean, I certainly Bach and there's so many things. I think that there's amazing. I think one of the fascinating things about classical music as a whole and jazz is that there's different emotions for different times, and so it's depending on your mood. I think it's important for us to sometimes take a moment to just not have all the content in front of our faces and just to sit and listen and reflect. And actually, I was just thinking about this on the plane flying here from Los Angeles we have the anniversary of September 11th coming up, and I was thinking about what music is something personal to me to listen to, or that might remind me of 10 years ago and things. Well, I mean, there's a host of things. Actually, I think the Shostakovich violin concertos is very poignant and telling at this time. I think that Schubert, Winterreise, and certainly Bach. I think Bach chaconne, Bach violin, and oh, it's very hard. And Barber's Adagio for strings, as common as that is.
Well, at the end, you're right. It depends on time, mood, and whatever. Yeah. Situation is, you exercise.
I do. I like to run.
You're very fit. And
no,
what does it take? I mean, how many times
do
a week?
Run? Oh well. I shouldn't say this publicly, but I'm supposed to, my husband and I are going to run the Long Beach Marathon in October. So right now we're just training for the marathon.
Where is it, Long Beach?
It's just south of Los Angeles. No, it's actually...
Not New York, Long Beach?
No.
This is California,
yes,
LA, Long Beach.
LA, Long Beach. I think it's...
Marathon?
Yes.
43 kilometers.
I don't, yes, 26.2 miles. Yes, 43 kilometers.
How many hours?
Well, I hope it's under 4.5 hours.
4.5 hours.
I hope it's under.
Wow, and do you run often?
I try, for me, running is important for my mind. I don't do it. I'm not a great athlete in any way, shape, or form.
But this marathon makes you great at it.
No, but it's the mind. It's for your mind. It's a chance to reflect and be proud of what your body can do and your mind can do.
For running a marathon, you should run every day before
exercise?
Yeah,
well, so we follow a program
couple miles every day?
Well, a couple, yes. It's a wonderful, there's fabulous programs that you can, it's amazing. I never had run more than a couple miles until the first marathon I ever ran, and if you follow the programs and
keeps you running?
It's just incredible. You know, you slowly increase.
What is this?
It's about one of the there's a bunch of the programs on there, but one that I like is the Hal Higdon, and you can download them, look at the schedule, and you follow it.
When I saw the first time you were in, I said immediately, she's a runner.
No, that's kind of no. My husband runs over an hour faster than me, so I don't feel that humbles me.
Margot, thank you very much for coming to my program, and
such a pleasure.
And I think what we have talked today will be watched by our Mongolian audience, a lot of young people, I hope, and then they do, and it will be a very, I think, life-enriching experiment, what you said.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Mongolia
Thank
things.
you.
Thank you
for having me.